Well, let me start recording. Sorry. Go to your configure document retrieval, click OK, and you give the document retention policy, how long you want to store your input document, whether you want to attach the files manually, or whether you want to pick it from an external location. If you want to pick it from an external location, you give the SFTP and all, or you can attach them manually and give the security group who can do that attachment. I don't know what security group are we part of, so I'm using integration administrator here. Hold on, let's see if I'm part of integration administrator in the first place. Okay. Yeah, we are part of integration administrator. So you have this retrieval service no configure, right? A group to manual attach files. So you would see your, where is this? Sorry. It's this one, yeah, this one. Have your business process now created, you lost that warning, your business process definition is nothing but step A is initiation, step B is document retrieval, step C is file integration once you retrieve the document. And who is gonna upload the document is integration administrator. If you go back to your integration, just launch it. Launch. Okay. Run now, okay. And it will ask for you to attach a document. It's an input document that you can attach from your local. If you want an SFTP, if you want to get it automatically from an SFTP, you pick SFTP instead of group to manually attach files. Okay.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, I'll try with that. I'll try one of them.
So for the core connectors, we can use for inbound too?
Yeah, there are some inbound connectors, but there are some inbound connectors that you guys we can use. For example, in this case, it is organization inbound. There are some other inbounds. Yeah, core connectors. I mean, one thing I would say is connector is just a template-based list, right? It is almost 90% built already. All you're going to do is configure it and do the job, right? So, whereas EIB and Studio is mostly built from scratch. So these are mostly all of inbounds, general inbound, bank transaction inbound. So some of them are specifically with vendors, each vendor, right? So if we use that, it would 90% work with the vendor format that the vendor sends, right? So vendors usually give you files in a specific format, right? Like date pre-built format. So these templates are most probably built for that specific file formats. Okay.
And if you have a choice between EIB and core connector, what would be the preferred choice?
You can do in both.
If you have a choice to choose both, you will go with why? Is there a reason why?
I would do core connector because it's quicker in extracting data than an EIB. EIB has to go with reports, report data source and all. But one thing you need to keep in mind is how many custom fields are you guys creating? Right? If it is more of workday delivered information that we're getting out, right? So then core connector should do the job, and it is faster. It makes an API call on the back end and it works. So whereas a report, yeah, there wouldn't be that much difference, but yeah, reports are slower than a core connector. But yeah, I would pick core connector. But if there are more calculated fields and all, you're trying to do a lot of customization, then EIB would be a simplest option.
Okay, thank
you. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Or should we? Okay. So today we're going to discuss payroll interface integration. It's also called Picof. Picof. It's payroll interface. So you see two here. One is the payroll effective changes interface. It's called PC. Payroll effective changes interface, and another one is payroll interface. For PC, we need a grid enabled tenant. I'm not sure if we are a grid enabled tenant or not. I don't know how to check. But let's start with Picof and let's try PC as well and see what will happen. Payroll interface. So most people would be getting confused. What is Picof? Okay. Picof payroll interface common output file. Whereas PC is payroll effective changes file. Sorry, interface. Just try to remember this definition. Most interview, one of the definite interview question is difference between PC and Picof. You can start with the abbreviations, of course, because those probably speak the entire thing here. So Picof is payroll interface common output file. So PC was recently given, like recently in the sense probably three years back. So until that time, everybody has only one option to get a Picof, payroll interface common output file. So it says as common output file, right? That means most of the vendors are compatible in using this format, right? So you have a client with Workday, and if you have a third-party payroll provider, most of them are willing to accept this as the input for them, right? This is like a common XML that they can accept. And Workday built it in that way. So that is why it is called payroll interface common output file. So you're going to use the template called payroll interface. Click OK. And then the same thing like you did for core connector, you would also do for Picof as well. So you're gonna select the optional things. Remember, launch parameters enable, detection launch parameters enable. Personal data section, let's enable it. Status, position, compensation. And there are a lot in there. I mean, there are more sections in there than a core connector worker. It's because everything related to payroll, compensation, or anything related to payroll will be there. Delivery service, file name, audit file name, and all. It's up to you guys. Otherwise, they'll be defaulted. So click OK. And then the next thing would be starting with integration attributes. System configure integration attributes. Okay, output format. We're gonna leave it to XML version. Yes, we need to add a version here. I'll go with the latest 25. Document retention policy. The default is 30. You can leave it like that. Date formats, format, required field validation. You see, there are a lot of attributes in here. I don't know the number. Like you see the scroll bar, it's pretty small. There are a lot of attributes in there. I'm gonna go quickly. So max length validation. Like each of the attribute has a description here, right? Required field validation. Remember, what is the required field? On a core connector worker, if you select a field attribute as required, That means you are making sure that the worker is not included in the file when required the field is not available for that worker, right? So same thing here, required field validation. Additional validation tools are applied to employee data to identify errors that may occur when data is exported. For example, fields that are mapped using integration maps may contain the value that is not defined in the map. This attribute controls what happens when these validation tools detect an issue. If abort is selected, then the payroll extract will not be delivered. Right? If you overwrite this, and if you select abort, that means whenever you find a validation rule, whenever the integration finds saying, let's say you mark the gender as required, and you did not see a gender for that worker, automatically that integration errors out and will not deliver the file. Even though you have a delivery service, the integration will not trigger the delivery service. If omit report warning is selected, then the employee in question will be excluded from the extract with warning messages added to the event. If you omit, it gives a warning and they'll be included. If include is selected, the employee will be included in the payroll extract. The issue will be reported in Workday as a warning on the previous event. You can include them, but still you throw me a warning so I can look into it. Right? And whenever you correct the data, the next run it should catch up. Same thing here, max field validation. Should I include, should I omit, or should I remove the record from the file? Yeah. The organization type that identifies organization being payroll company. So I'm not that functional guy. So if I tell something wrong, just correct me. Anything related to functional. So I'm gonna look. So what this is saying is there are within a company's payroll structure, right? You have two. So within HCM, you have company and cost center, department, and all the different organizations, right? Department and all the different organizations. But within payroll, when it comes to payroll, we have what we call the pay group. Sorry, let's start with pay company, pay group. And there are other organization types. Cost center, of course, is still in the payroll as well. But basically, these two are pretty much important in payroll. So what is the difference between a company and a payroll company? Right? So it depends on how payroll company. It depends on how your payroll organization, how your organization is functioning. Let's say, example with ERPA, right? ERPA is entire company. Okay, ERPA is an entire company, and then you have ERPA contract workers. Who are on W2, right? Contract W2 workers, and also you'll have full-time or regular full-time ERPA employees, right? Employees, right? In this case, ERPA might decide, okay, these two are different folks. Okay, these two are two different entities in my payroll. I'm gonna pay these two guys differently. Okay, so these two can go into a different pay groups. So let's if they go into different pay groups. Right? It just affects both are in the same company. Let's put ERPA payroll company. Okay, and both these employees and contract workers are part of the ERPA payroll company. Right? Only difference is this guy has the pay group 1. Everybody falls here under pay group 1, and here falls under pay group 2. So this is one type of our company setup, payroll company setup, right? So another type can be let's say ERPS management decides, okay, my payroll reporting, everything should be different because my W-2 employees are different from my full-time employees. I want everything to be calculated separately or something like that, right? So in that case, there might be two ERPA companies, ERPA payroll companies, ERPA, let's put it this way easily, employee company, and then you also have ERPA W-2 company. These are called payroll companies. So these are called payroll companies. These are little different from this company right here. This is different. Your entire HCM can say ERP as a company, right? But for payroll purposes, you can have multiple entities within the same company. Right? You can divide your payroll companies into multiple entities, but still your employees, everybody falls under ERP as a same company. Right? So the difference would be, let's say if I'm moving from one payroll company to a different payroll company, for payroll purposes, I'm actually leaving this company. So I'm getting terminated, not technically, but I'm leaving this payroll company and I'm going to join this payroll company, right? I'm still moving under ERPA only. I'm moving from W-2 to employee or employee to W-2 or W-2 contract, right? In that case, in this case, I'm moving from one payroll company to a different payroll company. So for payroll purposes, so that means I'm leaving here and I'm joining the new payroll company, right? So usually, if you leave a company, what is the transaction? The transaction is termination, right? Termination to leaving a company, right? Leaving a company, entire company, it is called termination. But what if you are leaving a payroll company? You're not leaving ERPA, you're just moving between two different entities in ERPA. So that would be something like something called PCO. The transaction type is PCO. It's called pay company out. Okay. That means you're leaving from one payroll company and you're joining a different payroll company. And for this, when you run the integration for this company, that worker will appear as PCO, pay company out. When you run the integration for this company or this pay group, it's going to appear as PCI, pay company in. Okay. In this case, because there are two different payroll companies, it is like that. Let's go back to our case one. We have one payroll company, but there are two pay groups, right? Then also the payroll needs to know that you moved from one pay group to a different pay group. In this case, the transaction is called PGO, pay group out, and PGI, pay group in, right? So these are some transactions that you will see on a Picof output. I mean, you would also see hire, like when you hire an employee, and you would see TTA if data is changed. So these are all statuses. These are all the transaction types that you'll depending on how your company is structured, right? If your company has only one payroll company, people move from pay group 1 to pay group 2, then you would only see these two types. If your company has multiple payroll entities, then it would be these two. Usually, companies with an international presence, like Gilead or any other clients, they have multiple payroll companies because once you leave US and join same Gilead in UK, HCM perspective, you're just doing a data change. I mean, you're just doing a transfer. You're moving from Gilead US to Gilead UK. On payroll perspective, you're actually going out of Gilead US company and then joining Gilead UK company, right? So everything changes on the payroll side. Any questions here? Anything we can talk and get clarity on? Okay, I hope I explained it clear. So that is what here it is asking. So what is the organization type that defines this organization being a payroll company? Right? I mean, because there are a lot of organization types. If you go to your workday, and if you look for org types, you would see probably this case appeared 59 in this tenant. So you have everything organization type. You can maintain organization types. You have different companies. You have cost centers. And then you have your HR, supervisory, metric. And then you have within your pay, you have your payroll company and pay group. And the rest are custom organizations. So these 28 are custom organizations. That's probably some of you have created. Okay. So payroll company. Yep. That's that. So it's asking what is it, right? So I'm gonna just enable this and say I am looking for payroll company or external payroll company. Yeah, payroll company. Include prior values. Like the core counter worker, should I include prior values or should I exclude the prior values? I would say include prior values. Just click OK. Output document tags, audit document tags, extract all pay data. For employees that have identified changes, extract all configured data sections with annotations on modified or records, modified fields or records. Deleted data sections with an operation field not extracted. Transaction log service cannot be used to extract pay data. I mean, this is basically saying if an employee has a change, include all of this information. I wouldn't want that. I only want information that is changed. So core connector worker, if an employee is changed, it would automatically include all of the core connect, all of the worker's information. That's saying that some things in this 100 fields have changed with the prior value and current value needed. Right? In this case, you have an option to do that. You can say, okay, do not include any identifier information or do not include any payment election information if there is no change in there. Just don't include it. Just include whatever that is only changed. Right? That is this. And you also need to know a concept called pay period. I hope you guys know what a pay period is, right? Pay period is typically pay period. I don't know what I can say about that pay period. It's how your year is divided into pay. Your year is divided into pay cycles. So let's say you have you can have a bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, and other things like that. So each pay period has something called period schedule. Period schedule decides how the pay periods are divided within a year, right? So if you have a bi-weekly, that means your period schedule frequency is equal to 12. Sorry, bi-weekly is 26. Right? Bi-weekly is 26. If you have if you have semi-monthly, it is 24. You have, let's say, yearly, monthly. Yearly would be very good. If you have monthly, that would be 12. Some countries have a different features, like Thailand, I believe, they have 14 pay periods or 14 pay periods. So if you work there 12 months, you're going to get 14 months worth of pay. I don't know how they're going to divide it. But in such cases, your frequency is set to 14, depending on, so that is how your thing is scheduled. So they're going to pay twice on November and December or something like that. So that is the pay group and pay period and period schedule. So if you go to your tenant, look for few pay groups. I'm gonna look for something pretty good one. Full-time professional. I think full-time is good. The pay group, this run category is semi-monthly, semi-weekly. What is semi-weekly? It created something called semi-weekly. And period schedule is bi-weekly. Right? So if you want to check that bi-weekly frequency would be frequency would be 26. And the analyzation factor is 26. That divides it into number of basically this one here. Yeah, this is not ours. I want something default. I don't want something like this. Executive faculty. What is default here? Oh, the Canada. Yeah, I think this is good. Oh, yeah, I have 7 people, but we'll do Canada. Okay, so I have my period schedule here, semi-monthly. And then if you see here, it run category is regular, but the last period completed is basically nothing. Nobody moved anything here. Current period in progress is nothing. And then your next period to process is this. In a HR system, you don't really have to move or open or close pay periods because it's not going to impact anything. It's just for reporting or UI perspective, you might have to do it, right? Because if somebody is referring to Workday for their paycheck, if their payroll is in ADP, they wouldn't find anything because their payroll is in ADP. They might just find these dates and see why my next period is 2007, 2019. Right? If you want to move something, you just go. I'm not going to do it, but just showing you there are a lot more there. Organization, edit organization. And you can scroll down. Okay, we don't have access to it. No, man. But usually, if you have enough access, it would show here for you to change it. You can mark it as complete or in progress. So you have to keep everything complete and come to the top latest one. If needed, in this case, I mean, our Picofs and all will work fine, even though your pay period is not open. It's just your UI perspective. So this is your pay group. There is no pay company here. That's why you don't see any hierarchy here. There is no pay company. Organization. I don't see any pay company. Usually, if you have a pay company, you would see here something like included like a hierarchy. But even though you don't have a payroll company, it doesn't affect anything. If you don't have a payroll company, that means your payroll is not divided into different entities. You have everybody under the same ERP, right? Like in this case, our Canada bi-weekly does not have a payroll company. That means Canada, they're not going to worry about people moving from one Canadian company to a different Canadian company. Everybody falls under the same company. The next thing would be, where am I? I'm not doing that. So period lookup days. So defines the number of old days, the current pay period, the pay changes at the next period. So usually on a Picof, everything is effective within the pay period. That means your information that comes out of that comes out of a Picof is always as of the pay period end date. Remember we discussed effective date yesterday? If it's effective date yesterday, this is always pay period end date for Picof. It's always going to be pay period end. So if you want to look information as of pay period end date, that's a normal process. But if you want to look something ahead in future, like if you want to look something in the next pay period by just a couple of days, because there are some clients who want to know, who want their payroll system to know termination a little ahead of time, or job changes a little ahead of time, or at least they don't want to wait until the end of the pay period where the termination is happening right after the pay period end date, right? So you can do something like this. You can add payroll lookup ahead days, and you can add look for 2 days ahead of the pay period end date. And then you can select certain transactions, whether I'm going to look for only these 2 after 2 days after the pay period end date. If there is any other data change, I'm not going to worry about it. If there is, let's say the pay period end date is 8:30, and then the employee is terminated on 8:31, right? Pay period end is 8:30 because it's a biweekly. Friday is ending out, and employee is terminating on 8:31, right? In this case, if you don't do the pay period lookup ahead, if you don't do the period lookup ahead, the payroll team doesn't gonna know about this until their next pay period, right? Which is here. Until 13, they wouldn't know that the employee left the company on August 31st. Right? But if you do this, they're gonna know. But you can't do it for 14, 15 days. You're not gonna look for next pay period entirely. You look for certain transactions. Only if terminated or things, I want to look it for 2 days ahead. It is also same thing. Earnings and deductions. So here are different sections we selected, right? So include earnings and deduction section. I can say include only when changed, or I can say just for earnings and deductions, I want to include it always. But that would send the same earnings and deductions every week. So it's preferably leaving it as include only when changed. Calculate benefits as of date. So there are a lot of attributes here that drives your peak of capability. In this case, when enabled, any earnings and deductions related benefits will be included as of the payment date, as opposed to the period end date. Like you guys remember, I told earlier that your Picof, it's always going to look for pay period end date. Only changes that are effective until pay period end date, not after that, except for these 2 transactions which we picked 2 days ahead, right? In this case, it is telling us if you enable this checkbox, you're going to look for earnings and deductions with an effective date of paycheck date. Okay. You guys observed pay period end date is different from paycheck date, right? Let's say in our example, our pay period end date is 8:31, but your paycheck date probably is 8/5 or 9/5, right? Same thing here. In this case, okay, pay period end date is 12/15, but they're paying ahead. I mean, they're paying ahead of time, but usually no one will pay you ahead of time. So if the pay period end date is 12/15, usually the payroll payment date would be 12/20 or something, right? This attribute just enables us to say you can look for information as of the paycheck date, not the pay period end date. Okay, and everything I'll leave it to default. Let's go quickly. Not here. Name types, if you want to include name types. Organization 1, if you want to include organization data, you can select them here. I would say organization 1 is company, organization 2 is supervisory, and the list goes on. I have 5 organizations. Okay, include additional information sections. Yes, this is fine. Primary payroll integration. The primary payroll integration uses pay period status to define the appropriate change detection methods for the payroll. The primary payroll integration also updates the pay period status when an expat completes without an error. So if you mark this integration as your primary payroll integration, then yeah, let's leave it for now. I would say no, this is not my primary, but we'll see what it is really once we run it. I want to run it and show you guys. PGO staffing events will take precedence over leave of absence and return from leave. So let's say within a pay period, if an employee is on leave of absence and went on leave of absence, and within the same pay period, if he was transferred out of the payroll company, he was transferred from US to UK. In that case, what did you send? Will you send the leave of absence or will you send the PCO? Right? This, if you enable this, this is going to automatically send us the PCO transactions instead of the like in this case, one thing you guys have to remember is Picof is always top of the stack, right? That means you get one row per worker, that's it. No repetitions, nothing, even though there are multiple changes for the worker, you get only one row per worker. Whereas species is effective data changes, right? So you get multiple lines based on multiple changes. If a worker has multiple compensation changes in a month, in a pay period, right, you would get both of them, right? You can get multiple lines. Multiple rows per effective dated transaction. Okay. This is important to remember. Picof is always top of the stack. PC is multiple rows, right? This would not be there for Picof. Sorry, this option would not be available for PG because PG would give you both of them. It would give you LOA in one line and it would give you next line PCO with whatever comes first, right? And the payroll vendor, you have to select the payroll vendor, any of these payroll vendors. Like all of these guys should be able to accept this file format. You can say ADP if you want. You take ADP. There are multiple ADPs actually. Like ADP Pay4, Spicy, a lot of them. Include time tracking, that's all fine. Do they include all the required for launch? Yes. Required for launch, required for launch, required for launch. Okay. Click OK. Now you have completed just attributes. And then next step would be field attributes. Here you have personal status, position, compensation, because those are the only 4 sections we enabled. Right? There are 161 fields in the personal data section. I would just include everything. I don't want to pick and choose now, so just including everything. I mean, you guys have seen, right? Most of this information is similar to your core connector worker, but you will have more fields in this Picof because it's a different template of it. Clicking OK. So like the way you have your core connector worker, similarly you have your required field and maximum length options here. So you can mark something as required and only give the output, worker output if the value is met, or you can, this will truncate the worker information. So you have enabled attributes and field attributes. Next thing would be maps. Same thing. Same thing here, you have a lot of maps depending on the fields that you have selected. If you want, you can fill them, or obviously, if you did not map anything, it would take the gender code or integration ID, territory ID, general event subcategory ID for the higher case. To take the ID and it would give ID in the output. I'm gonna leave it like this. Not gonna worry about maps. In it. We forgot about one thing, right? Within our field attributes, we have a lot of fields here. 161 on a personal data set. It's pretty big, but you can still. So you can still. Sometimes you might need more different fields or different calculated fields that you computed, right? Apart from these 161 fields. So how do you get it? Same thing, like how you did your core connector worker. So we're gonna go to integration services, scroll down, go to here, and then create your integration field or itself, and then give the name. Field one. Just I'm gonna look for worker. Oh, sorry. This PI is only gonna give me some fields. So what's this area? To etc. Right. Yeah. Duplicate, insert, found, name. Okay, this probably is duplicate one of the things. Integration service has been added. So now we're almost there. We have everything set up. All our attributes, field overrides. We need to configure them. Yes, we need to put some fields here. I would say go by my name and get whatever is available here. So if you have some calculated fields that require a prompt, right? You might have a calculated field that require an effective date, or you might have a calculated field that requires a specific prompt value to be passed, so you can get an appropriate response, right? In this case, probably this guy, get found. And then when you click or when you add that field in here, PI automatically, or any core connect, any override service automatically gives you the prompt value here. So you can either give the prompt value or determine value at runtime, and you can say it is equal to current worker or something like that. Current worker. And let's pick something else here. I want to see whether it's a US employee or not. Click OK. I have my things here. So you don't see any eligibility criteria here because Picof payroll interface is obviously run with a pay group. That means only employees part of the pay group are even eligible for inclusion in the integration output. So let's launch it. Launch. Run now. So the first thing it is asking for is pay group, and then we have to select a pay group, right? We have to select what we are running for third-party USA. Why do I only see two pay? Because there are two people in there. I hope it will work. Let's try. See, this third-party USA has an external payroll entity as well. It's included in this payroll company. Okay, whether I have my period schedules configured. Yes, everything is configured, and these guys. If I can go ahead and edit it. Organization, edit organization. Yeah, you can edit it now here. You can mark people as things as completed. things like that. So based on this, the next period to be processed is nothing, because these guys did not close everything. If you want your next period to be processed shown here, you need to close everything from the beginning. It's a big list, so you have 150 items. So I'm going to do it. We have workaround around it. So let's say we are only looking for effective in August. So you select your pay group, third party. You can select multiple pay groups if you want. And then period selection option here, pay period selection option, you can say earliest open pay period. That means it is going to look for current period in progress or the next period to process. If you know you're not going to open close pay periods, you can always select use pay period app for current date. So this is going to get you information as of this is going to always look for the pay period as of current date, which would be 8/1 to 8/30 or something. Pay group members. If you want to select, you have an option to hard code a couple of employees to test, but in this case, they only have 2, so it's fine. Exclude or include members, yeah, only include specified members. If you have anybody here, you can say exclude them, or you can include those specified members. So this is one important thing. If the last successful run, like a core connector worker, last successful entry moment. So it is similar to that last successful run. That means whenever Picof is run, it is looking for a from date. Like it is looking for from what date should I look for changes, right? The first thing it would end up is with the last successful run, right? It would say from the last successful run, I would look changes. So whatever date you give here, so Picof is going to look for changes from that particular date and time. Entered from that date and time, effective as of the pay period end date. Okay. You don't have 3 or 4 fields here to detect changes. It always detects changes for transactions that are entered after 8/1 and effective before the pay period end date. So you have different change detection options. I would go with, it all depends, but most of them, yeah, there's a little difference always here. So this one would be including only changes that are entered since the last successful run. So let's say an employee was terminated. Termination entered in June 06, but it was effective in August. Right? If you select this option, it would not give you something because you're looking from August 1st. And that termination was never happened after August 1st. It was happened in June. But still it is effective in August. So future date termination. These two would cover it. So include all changes effective in the pay period would cover it on the first run of the pay period. It will include everything that is effective on the first run. Same thing like this. If this is selected, it is going to look for the pay period started, the pay period status, whether it's not started or in progress. If it is not started, that means it assumes that it should include everything in the pay period, everything effective that happened in the pay period. But if it is in progress, it will only include changes that were entered after the last successful mandate. I would say I'd start with include all changes. 8/1. I'm going to click OK. Just going to see how many items become. I expect no one because there is only 2 employees and I don't expect changes from 8/1. So that should be quick. And then we'll go back without date. Good. We failed. It is not possible to locate a parent organization type. Oh, come on. So it is saying it is not possible to locate a parent organization of organization type with this one for a pay group third party. It is trying to look up an organization, but it was not able to do it. Payroll company. So what is the payroll company for third party USA? What is the payroll company? External pay entity. What happened with this? It was effective way back. Okay, members. Amber thought, when this guy hide into this play group? Hmm. Probably with security. It is not trying to locate. Let me try to relaunch it. It's a little different effective date. Oh, or hold on. Is this? Oh, the type is external payroll. It's not the payroll company. Remember, our integration is actually looking for payroll company, not the external payroll type. So I'm gonna go back to my integration attributes. Still not payroll. This is the payroll company organization type. I mean, they create custom organizations, right? So someone might have named it that way. I'm gonna relaunch it. Hopefully this should fix it. We have 5 warnings. People can't find marital status, people can't find work shift because we didn't map it. We didn't map them. So it's just showing I can't find anything for them, so I'm throwing a warning, things like that. So I still got my output file, payroll extract.xml, and I have 14 messages saying no employees were included because the file will not be delivered as we haven't enabled any delivery service, so that's good. And let's see why no one was included. You see the data changes audit first, sorry, the diagnostic audit, and you would go, there were no data changes detected on this worker, Amber, from 8.1 course. And if you go to workers record, technically nothing changed after 8.1, right? Even her personal information also not changed. So what I'll do is, we can also go to data changes audit. There's no data changes audit because there are no changes. What we can go is, we can go back. We can relaunch it. Let's just go back 2 months, 0601. Go back 2 months and just launch it. Same thing, but we got 6 files. You see the data changes audit this time. So the data changes audit is right now including for Amber personal and position information. So it detected a gender change, or the gender was entered in June, and then position supervisory organization, supervisory ID was somehow her supervisory is removed. Same thing here, but you also see status. That means it's probably high, staffing event high, and you have all the rest of the information as new, right? One thing you can look at is the output file, the XML. Similar to core connector, this has PI colon, core connector has WD colon, this is PI colon. And whenever there are changes, I think it will include prior values, like in this case, prior value. It only came from 2 employees, of course, right? So based on our last successful run date, if you go like to February, I think both of them will get hired because both of them were hired after February. Questions? This is like a simple Picof that we have just did. Now there's a lot of stuff to digest and there's a lot of fields to look into, and just another connector, but this is a very important connector.
Krishna, quick question. So is this integration run daily in any company, or is it like only runs in a bi-weekly period?
Depends. I'll give you a lot of scenarios here, everything I have seen. So one scenario is business will run it. Whoever is the payroll team, they run the integration manually by themselves, so whenever they want, right? So most of the times, this XML is not delivered directly to the vendor. I mean, some of the times, of course, some of the times it's not delivered directly to the vendor. Business will run it and they'll validate it and they'll see if you see here, there are 5 warnings, right? So these warnings have to be corrected. That means the person's marriage status, work shift, everything needs to be corrected. So once they correct it, they'll rerun it until these warnings and errors are resolved. Okay? They'll rerun it for the pay period using the same last successful run date. So for that, if IT is involved, we'd be exchanging a lot of emails, right? This is a warning, please correct it, and then they'll send back. So we trained our payroll team itself, so they run it. They run this integration by themselves, and they look at the warnings, correct it. If they find some error that they don't understand, they'll reach out to us. That's one way. The other way is we schedule them.
To the third-party payroll like ADP, so we provide this Picof file every bi-weekly, or is it?
I mean, your pay periods, right? If you have a bi-weekly pay period, you can do daily, you can do bi-weekly, you can do, if there is a bi-weekly pay period, you can do Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's just how frequent you want your HR data to be in sync with your payroll data.
Okay.
Like there is no set definition saying you have to run it bi-weekly or you have to run it once a week or a day. Just how much you want to get it in sync. Because if you consider, right, I've seen some international pay groups for some clients where they have only 2 employees or 3 employees, right? For 3 employees, if you run it daily, it's not going to generate any changes because I mean nothing's going to change every day for 3 employees, right? So usually you would decide and say, okay, I'll run it every week. Even though there are no changes, I'll just schedule it every week so at least we are in sync. So that's how we do it at the client. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. Picof, I'll upload this video as well again. So just go through it. Just one of the important connectors out there. Lot of attributes, in the sense there's a lot of configuration that we can do to change the way the output looks. I mean, change the way how you include or exclude information, so it's more controlled. But the rest is just doing more of these things that you will only do it when you're at a client place. But that's that. But the concept-wise, any questions on Picof or core connector worker, just let me know today. So we're almost done with. We're going to discuss one benefit connector or something tomorrow, just packaged connector, just to see how it works. That should be quick, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
Krishna, so we're going to provide this any core connector file to any vendor in a CSV or any other readable format, right? Not the XML, right? So how do we convert
so for
that?
we will go into. So there is one other integration template. It's called the document transformation. So we'll use that. It is nothing but an XSLT, but we'll write it in a different format. We'll take this connector, this Picof output as an input to that, and then we translate it into the file that we want. So that would be something for our tomorrow's class.
Okay. So that will be common for any core connector, right? The document transformation.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want your file on an XML, or if you want a different XML format rather than what core connector or Picof is generating, yeah, you would have to do some transformation and get a different file format, right? So
okay.
Document transformation can be used to do that. All right, guys, let's wrap it up for today, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Yes, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.